We continue with our discussion on Applied Corporate Finance Unit 4, and in this particular video we're going to talk about the trade-off around debt. So what are the pros and cons of having debt in the capital structure of the firm, right? Should a firm have debt, as we asked in the last section, as to whether it makes sense for a firm to have debt or it does not make sense for the firm to have debt. There are companies like Infosys, HUL, etc. that have zero debt. And then there are some companies who have a lot of debt, like the likes of GMR Infra, the likes of JP Associates. So how much of the debt is too much of debt? And what are the pros and cons? What are the positives and negatives that come along with having a lot of debt on the company's books is what we are going to discuss. What are the reasons why a company might want to raise debt? And what are the reasons why a company might want to avoid raising debt is what is the broad construct of this, right? So that's what we're going to look at here. So let's just outline broadly what kind of key benefits and lower, key costs are there. We have already seen some of this earlier, which is debt is cheaper. Debt gives tax benefits. Debt gives an added discipline to the firm's management. The costs are in terms of the risk that a company actually ends up defaulting. The risk that there is an agency problem, and we'll discuss about this in more detail as we go along, and the loss of future borrowing capacity for a firm, right? So let's take them one by one. Let's look at the key benefits first and understand that. Now, cost of debt is lesser than cost of equity, right? That's because the debt holders have a priority in terms of getting payments. So we have seen we calculate cost of equity using the CAPM, which is risk-free rate plus beta into RM minus RF. Usually, because RF is close to about 5% as per our calculations and RM minus RF is about 8%, unless a firm is very, very safe, the beta would be north of or higher than 0.7, 0.8. So this number beta is going to be anything, for most firms, the beta number is going to be greater than equal to 0.7. In which case you are looking at a number of close to about 10 to 11% at least as cost of equity, right? Cost of debt for most firms, given that risk-free rate in India is about 5 to 7, Government of India borrows at 7%, going to be approximately anywhere between 8 to 12% depending on what kind of companies are there, right? And obviously the company where the cost of debt is 12%, the cost of equity will be significantly higher because the beta of these companies would be 1.5 or more. So for all practical purposes, we know that cost of debt is less than cost of equity at all points, right? If that is the case, then it makes sense to have debt on the books because debt is cheaper. Equity is not cheap, right? So you could enhance the return of the equity holders, enhance ROE by taking debt, right? Or some debt, right? We can also go back a bit and try and gauge this. Recall our DuPont analysis. We said return on equity is nothing but net profit by equity, which can then be written as net profit by sales into sales by assets into assets by equity, right? This is the profitability ratio, net profit margin. This is the sales turnover, asset turnover ratio. And this third number is assets upon equity. The third number is going to be assets upon equity. Assets are nothing but effectively equity plus debt upon equity. So that's 1 plus debt upon equity. So if a firm increases the debt equity ratio, typically return on equity mathematically goes up, right? So if you have zero debt and you take a little bit of debt, that would usually result in enhancing return on equity, right? Because if you, let's say, had 100 crore that you returned to shareholders, returned to equity guys, and borrowed 100 crore, right? On this 100 to the equity guys, you would have been paying at least 12%. So that would have been 12. On this borrowed 100, you'll probably be paying 8%. So that will be 8 crore. So you'll save this 4 crore by this transition, right? So thereby debt benefits come in. The second benefit that comes because of debt is on account of lower taxes. The interest that a firm pays on debt reduces the pre-tax profits. This interest is tax deductible and gives a form of tax shield to the firm. When a firm uses only equity, if it does not use any debt, it uses only equity, equity is not allowed to deduct payments to equity, right? Such as dividends. Dividends are actually after the tax has been paid from the net profit. If something is left, dividend comes from there. So therefore, all other things being equal, the tax rate, if the tax rate being applied on a company is different or higher, then the firm has more incentive on having more debt, right? We should remember this because, for example, in India, till 2011-12, software firms, right, got tax advantage, tax incentives. If you have a tax incentive, then the tax rate that Infosys used to see, effective tax rate was 10 to 15%. If your effective tax rate is only 10 to 15%, there is little benefit of tax shield. So you will find that most IT companies in India have historically not had any debt. All other firms used to have tax rates of 30%, right? Now this is all kind of converging. Everyone will have the same tax rates, and logically, if you have more tax rates, your marginal tax rate is higher, then it makes sense for you to have more debt because it gives you a bigger tax shield, right? That's the second benefit. The third benefit that comes on account of discipline. Now, debt requires fixed payments, and inability to make those payments will basically mean a closure of the business, right? It would essentially mean bankruptcy. So, if you do not pay attention to the debt payments, typically the results are not good, right? So, typically the firms that take debt usually become more proactive, less complacent, and start working on it. See, if there's a set of managers that is managing a company and you identify that there is no debt, then while you do while you are answerable to equity holders, your life doesn't depend on it. The company wouldn't close if 1 year equity holders get lesser money. The stock price might fall, but the company would continue. In the case of debt, if you miss your interest payment, practically the company is kind of going to close at that point because there would be bankruptcy and the company would have defaulted there, right? So the moment debt comes on the books, it forces a disciplined approach. You have to plan, you have to be careful about your cash flows. So cash flow planning takes center stage. It becomes important because you will need money at the end to be able to repay the interest. Otherwise, it would not work, right? So that is where the discipline angle becomes very, very important when firms are kind of looking at debt, right? Now, let's look at the costs now. Now we have seen the benefits. Now talk about the costs that come up with the debt. If a firm is not, the first cost that will come is the bankruptcy cost, which is the default cost. If a firm is not able to repay its debt, this would result in a different form, different forms of cost. The first point that we have to look at is what is the probability of bankruptcy, right? Which is different for different industries. In addition, there are direct costs and indirect costs of bankruptcy. What are the direct costs? Direct costs are legal costs and filing cost, which is small, honestly. What kind of regulatory filings I have to do come under direct costs. So that's not huge. That's not a big problem in terms of most firms. But the indirect costs are the losses arising because the markets perceive the firm to be in trouble. These are a problem. These are much bigger problems because technically, if the stock markets or in general financial markets perceive that the firm is in trouble, then that would result in lower sales. Possibly vendors would ask for payments faster. Possibly customers may stop giving you orders. Possibly funding might become a problem because no one knows whether you'll be able to repay the money or not. So there are a lot of indirect costs in terms of lost business because of the probability of default, right? Now it's a logical conclusion that firms with more volatile earnings and cash flows will face a bigger chance of the bankruptcy, the probability of bankruptcy should be a function of predictability of earnings, right? Where is predictability of earnings high? Predictability high, and then we look at low. So it would be high with, let's say, FMCG segment, fast moving consumer goods. It would probably be high with pharma segment. It would probably be high with consumer durables, probably high with IT. Low with all your metals firms, because globally defined, infrastructure firms, because you don't know which year the profit would come in, whether the cash would come in. So in these sectors, you will typically find predictability is low, and hence the borrowing capability is you have to be skeptical of the firm's borrowing capability in these areas. Usually you'll also find that these kind of firms have more debt because they're always in scarcity of funds. Where predictability is high, typically cash flow is also high. Cash flows are less unpredictable, which means cash flows are more certain. In these segments, typically you don't need too much funding outside the firm. Internal funding suffices most of the times, right? So it's a function of these two. And even within industries, you will find that some industries will have higher indirect costs, right? So the chances of loss of business or the issues arising from chances of bankruptcy could be higher. Examples would be industries where there is multiple customer interaction. There's not just a single sale like soaps, but something like auto industry. If you buy a car, you need to go back again for the service of the car, right? So if a car firm, if an auto manufacturer is perceived to be in trouble, is perceived to be in big debt or general trouble for regulatory concerns, etc., car sales would slow down. So for example, around 2008-9, General Motors sales globally slowed down because it was perceived that the firm was in trouble. Then very recently, we just saw Volkswagen had this issue where sales have slowed down because of the emission issues that came up. And typically, that's where this problem would come up, right? Another example would be some kind of industry like the retail industry, right? Where suppliers may ask for faster payments since the firm is actually selling the supplier's product. It's a third party product. It's not their own product, right? So they can't really produce it. They have to buy it from a manufacturer and sell it. And that could create a problem because suppliers might say, look, you are in trouble. So if let's say tomorrow Walmart is in trouble, the supplier might say, look, you are in trouble. I can't let my goods come to you because I'm not sure whether you will be able to pay me or not. So either you make the payment faster so that my risk is lower, or I probably give my goods to someone else, right? Aircraft manufacturers, right? Aircraft manufacturers. So Boeing and Airbus, for example. So Airbus makes these aircrafts. If they are in trouble, an airline may not buy their aircrafts because they would have to go again and again to these guys. And if that survival is not certain, then there is a possibility that the indirect costs are higher. They will lose business because of that, right? Firms with more indirect cost arising out of bankruptcy would possibly have lesser room to take a lot of debt, right? Because as soon as debt levels start increasing, bankruptcy indirect costs would start increasing. So they may want to take debt, but less room is available to take this debt because the market will start perceiving default probability to be higher in case debt numbers increase, right? The next cost that comes in is something called as agency cost. We have discussed a bit of this in our first unit where we had said that the person who's hired to do the job has different motivations than the person who's hiring, right? The person who's hiring is known as the principal, and the person who is being hired is called the agent or the agency, right? Now, when a business borrows money, typically the stockholders are going to use this money in the course of running the business. So stockholders are basically the agency here or agents here, and the lenders are the guys who are basically, or the stockholders or the managers of the business are the guys who are the agents here, and the lenders are the guys who are the principal. Now the interest of the lenders, what is the interest of the lenders? They are interested in getting their money back, right? So they want less risk in the process because they want their money back. Stockholders are interested in maximizing their wealth. So stockholders want more risk. We have seen this in the past that stockholders typically get paid to take more risk, whereas bondholders typically get paid to take less risk. Now, it's important that this fits in because in firms where this agency cost is an issue, and that's an issue practically everywhere because the stockholder would want to kind of maximize the return. Firms that may have this problem, you will see they may make large dividends or take riskier projects such that the bondholder's interest is put at stake, right? So when a firm borrows a lot of money, the lender's interest is typically at a stake because the company does not care about repaying it a lot of the times. And there are lots of examples of this that come in your mind. So companies like JP Associates, companies like Kingfisher, companies like Suzlon, where these were ultra aggressive projects that were taken. Companies like Future Retail, a lot of debt was taken and then ultra aggressive projects were taken, aggressive expansion was done, which resulted in basically the money not coming back and the companies eventually going into default, right? So those are the cost of debt that come in terms of our understanding that we have seen so far, right? Finally, the last next cost of the debt is the loss of future borrowing capacity. If a firm borrows more today, it loses the capacity to borrow in the future, and this is considered detrimental in case a good project comes up later. You don't have capacity to borrow more. So if you are uncertain about future projects and financing needs, you will want to maintain lower leverage levels today, lower finance or debt levels today is what you would want to maintain, because if you're not sure what is going to be the fund requirement tomorrow, then you would want to be careful today in terms of this data point. So broadly, with this in mind, we have zeroed down on all the costs and benefits that come because of debt. Let's take the case of our firm in question, Apollo Tyres, and see if what kind of benefits they are getting out of this debt, right? Now, when you look at Apollo Tyres P&L statement, you find that their taxation is about 4,775. When you divide it by the profit before tax, which is about 1570, you will realize that this is close to about 30% of the tax that is being paid, slightly higher than 30% tax that is being paid. So that's the broad tax rate that is there, which is 4,775 divided by 1506, right? So that's broadly the tax rate that is there. Now, what is the benefit that is coming on account of debt? Is that the finance cost, this 91 crore of interest that is paid, is saving 30% here. So that would be close to about 30 crore. So Apollo Tyres is saving close to 30 crore on account of this finance cost that is coming in. Correct? So that's the benefit of debt that comes in. Of course, there are disclosures that have to be made with respect to the debt. So we had seen yesterday that we had seen in the earlier video that there are discussions on the debt. So if you look at non-current liabilities, the firm will have a very clear disclosure in terms of what kind of liabilities exist, what kind of payment structure is there, what kind of rate of interest is available. The firm will also ensure typically at all points of time that they have enough liquidity, enough money to be able to take care of these issues that might come up, right? Uh, in terms of lower cost of debt, that we would anyway know that the cost of debt for these guys, as you see, is if we look at some of these headers and look at the cost of debt for these guys, that's available here. Let's try and see if we get the data somewhere for each of these debt points. Yeah, so here we go. So you see, effectively the rate of interest is 9%, 10%, 11%, etc. That is available. And then you look further, there is the interest component is anywhere between 7% to 10-11% for these guys that we look across, right? Now, in no case, cost of equity will be lesser than this number. Cost of equity would always be slightly higher than this number because the beta of the firm would be approximately around, even if we assume a beta of 1, the cost of equity would be 13% for these guys. So practically, they are going to pay the rate of interest which is higher. For foreign currency loans, that's even lower, the rate of interest that is applicable there, right? Now, in terms of costs, this company is in the tires business. So agency problem is going to be similar for all data points. And it is not a company that takes a lot of debt. So honestly, future borrowing capacity is also okay. But in terms of your risk on the bankruptcy costs, tire companies typically are short purchase things, which is a quick purchase on a tire. Even if something goes wrong, you don't keep going back and back to the tire company again and again. So the issue of bankruptcy indirect cost is not very high for a tire company, right? That's the broad analysis that we need to do for any company that comes to us, right? So in terms of your project work, try and look at the firm that you have selected and see which of these are important for your firm in terms of the benefits of debt, and try and calculate what kind of benefit are they getting today versus the costs that debt brings to the table. Does your company already have a lot of debt? And in their kind of business, what kind of indirect costs could come up if you look at the firm's debt structure today and you say that they're going to raise more money, right? So these couple of questions that you try and answer, they would be useful in terms of your understanding of the firm. Quick questions as we come to an end of this particular section. What are the major benefits of borrowing money? And what are the major issues or costs associated with borrowing money? Thank you.